The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam must compensate Egypt and Sudan, according to some Egyptian minister.
You serious?
Sounds insane, right? Sounds like something a crazy person would say. The country where the water originates should pay the country where the water ends up. The giver must compensate the receiver. I've been following geopolitics for years. I've seen some absurd demands. I've seen some diplomatic posturing. But this, I have to be honest, this is a new level of audacity. This demand isn't just unreasonable, it's historically unprecedented, logically bankrupt, and honestly, a little bit desperate. Where does the Blue Nile begin? Where does the rainfall that feeds this river? Ethiopia is not stealing anyone's water. Ethiopia is a water. The country doesn't intercept something that belongs to someone else. It's the origin point. It's the source. The water exists because Ethiopian highlands exist. And the GERD is a hydroelectric dam. It's a generator. The water keeps flowing downstream. Ethiopia just captures its energy first before letting it continue on its journey. So explain to me, and I really need someone to explain this slowly, why the country providing the water should compensate the country receiving it. By what logic? Under what framework? Based on what principle of fairness? Here's a challenge I want to throw out there. Find me one example, just one, anywhere on earth, at any point in human history, where an upstream nation paid compensation to a downstream nation simply for developing its own water resources. Just give me one. There's none in Asia, not in Europe, not in America. The very idea will be laughed at. Every major transboundary river in the world, the pattern is always the same. Upstream nations develop, downstream nations negotiate. Sometimes they cooperate, sometimes they argue, but nobody, and I mean nobody, pays the downstream country for the crime of using their own resources. So why is Ethiopia expected to be the exception? Why is Ethiopia asked to play by rules that apply nowhere on the planet? Egypt always brings these two documents, the 1929 treaty and the 1959 agreement. I made a video about it. Check the link. These are the legal foundations for every water claim Egypt makes. But there's one small problem. Ethiopia never signed them. These were deals made between colonial Britain and Egypt, and Ethiopia wasn't invited to the table. And the 1959 agreement is particularly outrageous. It allocated the entire Nile between Egypt and Sudan, 100%. Every drop was given to Sudan and Egypt. And Ethiopia, the source of most of the water, they get nothing. Zero allocation, not a single cubic meter. And now Egypt wants to enforce these colonial relics, and no, not just enforce them, they want to monetize them. They want Ethiopia to pay for violating agreements Ethiopia never made, never signed, and never recognized. These agreements were drafted by empires that don't even exist anymore. And they were dividing the resources that never belonged to them to begin with. This isn't international law. It's some type of colonialism, or like it's like colonialism asking for a pension or something. Talking about compensation, let's be serious for a moment. Let's actually talk about who owes whom. Have you ever seen the satellite images of Africa at night? It's striking. You can trace the Nile by lights along its banks. The Egyptian Nile Valley sparkles with electricity. Then you look at Ethiopia. Vast stretches of darkness. because 60 million Ethiopians right now do not have power. You see, Egypt achieved near universal electricity access like decades ago. The development was powered in significant part by waters that originated in the Ethiopian highlands. For generations, Ethiopian waters flowed north, generating Egyptian prosperity, while the source nation remained in the dark. And now Egypt wants the people living in darkness to compensate the people living in light. They want the nation still developing poor to subsidize the nation that is already developed. They want the poor to pay the rich for the privilege of finally using what was always theirs. If we're seriously going to discuss compensation, let's flip the ledger. What about the generations of Ethiopians who watched their greatest natural resources flow away, completely untouched and undeveloped, building civilizations downstream, while they remained stuck in energy poverty? Who compensates them? You want the source to subsidize the destination. This is really bad diplomacy. The dam is built. This isn't theoretical anymore. It's not a proposal being debated. The GERD is concrete and still. It's operational and it's generating power. This isn't a negotiation about whether Ethiopia can develop its resources. That question has been answered. The dam answered it. Reality answered it. And in my opinion, you can debate about this, Ethiopia has negotiated in good faith for years. They've offered data, they have proposed drought protocols, they have discussed fill rates and coordination mechanisms. They have extended every reasonable olive branch available. But compensation for using its own water on its own land to power its own people? That's what Egypt is asking? That's not a serious negotiation position. Do you think it's fair? You cannot tax the rain. You cannot invoice the sky. You cannot send a bill to a nation for the crime of development. The Nile is not Egyptian property. It never was. It's a shared resource that begins in Ethiopia. And for the first time in history, the nation at the beginning is keeping some of what it creates. The water will still flow downstream, as it has always done, and it always will. But before it leaves, Ethiopia generates electricity. I mean, Egypt has a choice. They can approach Ethiopia as a partner. They can talk about cooperation in good faith about sharing this water resource. Or, they can keep making demands that no country in history has ever agreed to. I don't know. This whole thing sounds insane to me. I would really like to know what you thought. Am I being too harsh on Egypt? Am I wrong? Am I right? What do you think? How do you think they're gonna solve it? I'll see you on the next video.